There's no spoilers in this video unless I state otherwise. Okay, bye. I was spoiled pretty heavily on Higurashi. Higu, for those of you who aren't initiated, has a big focus on answering the mystery of what the f is going on in the town of Hinamizawa. It also has characters who are intrinsically linked to the answer of that. The element I was spoiled on were the motivations and reasoning behind a specific character's ties to all that. You know, pretty vital thing to be spoiled on. After finishing chapter 4, I knew pretty much everything regarding the mystery entirely not of my own volition, which, not gonna lie, was kind of a bummer. As of writing this, I just finished chapter 7 of Higurashi last night, the chapter where most of the big answers finally come to light. And honestly, as I was reading it, it just felt so flaccid. There was no wind in my sails when the big revelations happened. All I could muster was an okay at the events unfolding, while I knew in my mind's eye that if I had gone into it blind, I would have been flipping my lid. Seeing my conclusions being proven or disproven was a big part of my enjoyment of Higurashi. With being spoiled, I lost that, which sucked. Now, everything was still well written and, I could enjoy it on that level, but it's the kind of enjoyment you get on a reread. It's not the same as the Raw Dog variant. In this instance, spoilers actively made a negative impact on my enjoyment. I am worse off because I was robbed of a blind experience. However, it's not always a bad thing to be spoiled. Call this a piss baby half answer, but I really think it comes down to the genre or specific qualities of a work. For example, I was also spoiled on rapidly makes me lose my interest Dragon Ball Super. I watched all of it up until the Tournament of Power arc, which is where I just couldn't take it anymore. I grew up with Dragon Ball, and what I was watching was actively ruining my enjoyment of the entire series. Needless to say, it wasn't for me. However, I did watch the Broly movie after reading up on all of the spoilers for it. I got all into the detailed plot summaries and what exciting characters would show up, and it ignited my interest to go see it. Which I am glad I did, because it's the best Dragon Ball anything in the past decade, as well as just a really good movie in general. It's because of that experience of manic highs and lows that I've kept up with the series as a whole by consuming all of the spoilers regarding it. Since the Broly movie dropped, nothing has seemed interesting to me, so I haven't read any of it, which, based on the opinions of people I trust, has been a pretty good move. I value my time. I'd rather see something new than keep with something that I hope will be as good as it once was. You see, because I consumed spoilers, my experience and time spent saw a significant net benefit. Why that's the case for DB and not Higu is an intrinsic difference in genre. DB is a shonen. Plot is not its forte. Its focus is on the hype moments, how you feel watching Goku go grrrr or grah. No matter what you know going into it, those moments aren't going to lose their luster. Goku and Broly fighting with the orange-clad lad clapping the big bad isn't innovative or shocking. That doesn't mean it isn't cool, no, it's just that Dragon Ball and other shonen of its ilk don't need to have these big plot twist or character moments to be compelling. It certainly helps. My waning interest in Dragon Ball is because the characters have actively regressed, but that's a matter of my own preference. It doesn't stop people from actively enjoying it because they just want to see the fights. There's an old quote from one of Toriyama's editors where he talks about just wanting to get to the fights, like the fights were the core thing of Dragon Ball and everything else was just set dressing. I think that's a good preface for how the fans themselves consume it. Which isn't a bad thing. That isn't a bad thing, mind you. Dragon Ball is just more of a passive experience. You're just along for the ride, and like a roller coaster, just because you've rode it once doesn't mean you won't enjoy it again and again. Hell, if someone tells you about how sick it is beforehand, it just makes you more excited. Something like Higurashi is drastically different from that. Ryukishi07, the author, literally begs the audience to think about the work and form their own conclusions. He wants you to interact with it. That's how you get the maximum experience out of the work. Hell, as it was coming out originally in Japan, Ryukishi advocated for his readers to send him their theories, like actually write them down on a piece of paper and mail them to his P.O. box. Higurashi is an interactive work, and that's how I and many other people read it. In this way, the answer arcs, or the second half of Higurashi, is more or less the answer key in the back of a puzzle book. It's your own answers being either confirmed or denied, both of which are satisfying conclusions to see. What were you right about? What were you wrong about? That's compelling as hell. However, if you know the answers going into it, you don't get to experience your own ideas being confirmed or denied in the work. It's something you see randomly in a Twitter post and have a gut reaction of, oh, what? God damn it. And nothing more. There's no catharsis in that, only bitterness. I hope no one spoils you, my dear viewer, on Higurashi. Anyways, the difference inherent to the works of Higurashi and Dragon Ball mean that being spoiled on one can be a non-issue in comparison to the other. That's the point of the last 5-ish minutes, summarized in 26 words. There is another type though, the ambivalent spoiler. It has no real positive or negative, it just kinda cancels out. An example of what I'm talking about is Neon Genesis Evangelion. I will be spoiling Eva here, but I guarantee it's nothing you haven't heard before. You all know what Eva is, it has the cute one in it. I'll let your biases fill in who that is because it drives up retention. But Eva, as is common knowledge in the anime sphere, gets fucky at the end. Its last 2 episodes take place entirely inside the main characters' heads, and it has a big focus on analyzing their psyche. That's interesting, right? It's an idea that piques your interest if you haven't seen it. At least it did mine. It's a spoiler, but I never would have watched the series without it. It can be deflating to know what happens beforehand. However, if you like the work, getting to see how it gets to that point can be fascinating in its own right. It kinda balances out because it was the spoiler that drew you to the series in the first place. It's like hiking. Hiking is tiring, but you get to see so many beautiful things that you're glad you did it by the end of it all. That's what I like to call the ambivalent spoiler. It has a null impact because you both win and lose at the same time. Hell, in most cases you just win because seeing the journey is what it's all about. That being the case, you might then be asking, Sleepy, you beautiful fool, why isn't that how it is for Higu? It can be fascinating to see how the mystery unravels to the answer you were spoiled on, right? Not really. And the reason for this ties into a little bit of what I was saying earlier. Higu is a mystery. It gives you plenty of hints and tips as to how it gets to its conclusion before you arrive there. Chapters 6 and 7 have a big focus on that in particular, and the scenes where it's drip-feeding you leads to a conclusion you already know the answer to, it can feel like you're actively wasting time while reading. I personally get taken out of the experience because I just keep thinking to myself, God, this would be so satisfying to read if I didn't know exactly where it was going without a doubt in my mind. Ha ha. Something like Eva doesn't have that issue because although I knew where it was going from the start, the entire plot is not predicated on it. The characters get there naturally throughout the story. It isn't a set-in-stone thing that you're meant to figure out on your own. Eva is interactive, don't get me wrong, but that's in the way you think about it after the fact. Being spoiled on it doesn't change the emotions one might feel coming out of it. A story like Higu does change the emotions you feel if you know everything beforehand. God, why did I have to get spoiled on Higu? Jesus. This is why I say it really does depend on the work and genre. Most spoilers are ambivalent ones, but damn, the ones that negatively hamper the experience really do hamper it. Anywho, that's all I got. Tell me what you all think in the comments. Do spoilers positive or negative? Like the video if you agree, dislike it if you're cringe. Subscribe and check out my Patreon for the Sleepy Time podcast, my writings, or to request a video topic. See you all in the next one. Sayonara gozaimasu.